Hello.
Hi, Justin.
How's it going?
Yeah, good. Thanks. And you?
Doing just fine.
I'm glad you could join us.
Happy to be here.
So give it a couple of minutes, let people join in. Hopefully Tara's currently fighting with the coffee machine.
Hey everyone, how are you doing?
Hi there, how you doing?
Howdy, sorry, I was struggling with my camera there. Good, thanks. I actually have a bit of news. I'm going to be leaving Fidelity in 2 weeks' time, so I'm not sure how things work out after that. Opportunity came along and I took it, but yeah, I just want to let you guys know. Juan will be in touch, I'm sure, with updates and from our end anyway. But this will be my last call.
Okay. Well, yeah, more than welcome to stay in touch with the group and
I'd love to.
using.
Much appreciated. Thank you. Much appreciated. Thank you.
So doesn't look like Tara's going to be joining us, so let's just plug on. Short update from me. I've put a new section on the end of the Google Doc just to cover off some user stories. So what I've done is just try and capture some of the perspectives that we've got and stick them down in a list just to remind us, kind of some of the challenges with the audience, and help us to bear in mind that not everyone's going to have the same perspective on why they're doing this or why it would be useful to them. I've tried to capture a fairly broad swathe of different viewpoints, but I'm sure there's some others that I've missed. So if anyone wants to help fill that out, feel free to stick some stuff in there.
That looks like a really good start. I like what's in there so far. Okay, I guess I can share. I think Tracy said she wasn't going to be able to make it today, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, here's Tara.
Okay, great.
Hi, Tara.
Hey, good morning. Sorry. 8 a.m. meetings after a long weekend. First thing Monday morning are never my favorite.
Yeah, we figured you were fighting with the coffee machine.
I'm in the kitchen and I'm going to put my camera off and go make coffee while I listen. Let's see. All right. Are you about to take it away, Nicola?
Yeah, I was just going to give a quick update. So here we go. So I have, kind of a skeleton. I said I wanted to clean up because this was basically, I took the example site that Doxy has, made a bunch of changes, and I wanted to take out all the example stuff about Goldie Docs and just provide some kind of skeleton we can work with. So I can send a pull request later today. But I can just quickly walk you through what I have right now. So front page, The idea is these, okay, let's back up here. So last meeting, we talked a little bit about trying to provide some kind of a section or overview where we would provide some of that high level context, why you even want to implement some of these best practices for people like CEOs, CTOs. Just before you joined, Tara, Terry was showing that he had updated the end of the best practices Google Doc with a few examples of the kinds of CUJs that the use cases for that. So, you know, wanting to be able to scale your team, wanting to, you know, I can't remember what was listed, but like a few different use cases. And so this is just a space here where we could provide that kind of context, sort of some kind of section for that. So that comes off the main page. And then we have our sections for kind of assessing where you are, which goes to the same section, just further down. The learn link at the top and in that section I just came from will then also go to this page or this area of the site, but we'll take you up to the top and we'll have those same 3 sections. So going to an overview if you're not familiar with why you want to do this, going to assessment if you want a sense of where to start, and then looking at the rest of the guide and kind of working your way through. And then each of these subsections then are taken from the Google Doc. Just placeholders right now that we can then fill in. This one just has an example of just having some subsections. So each of these are individual markdown files, and you can see that this is the assessment section. In the URL, there's an assess folder and there's an underscore index markdown file for that. And then these are then individual markdown files in the assessment folder. I have a placeholder for things like MLOps and anything else that's domain specific that we want to do. This section here then would be where we would put community contribution guidelines. Right now it is placeholder, some general stuff taken from the Doxy example. So this is completely work in progress right now. And then the rest of this section could then be the community content that we put in. And then we had also talked about having a resources page that would point to, you know, Dora, the books that are being worked on, other kinds of stuff that we want to share for sort of deeper or additional reading and learning, or maybe stuff that's kind of outside of the scope of continuous delivery that we want to talk about but are still relevant. And then just an about page that's like, why are we doing this at all? And again, just pointing people to each of the sections. So that's what I have right now. I know the colors aren't completely, you know, the same as what we have on the other CD Foundation sites, but we can, I figure putting it up there and allowing people to go and create files and stuff is better than trying to tweak everything to death. So this is what I have right now. If this looks okay as a starting point, then I can send a pull request, put it in the repo that Tracy set up.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's really brilliant that we've got something that we can start to shape and build on. So thank you very much for putting that together.
Cool. So there is a Docker file in there so that you could just like run and look at it locally. My goal is that once we have this, the first iteration committed into the repo, that I can work on setting up some kind of automated deployment with Netlify. I have not dug into that yet, so that is my next step.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thoughts from everybody else?
This is awesome. So I'm sorry, I've been arguing trying to get HackMD up so I can capture. Nicola, I'll get all the relevant links for you to put them in the minutes. So just to confirm, you are ready for contributors to start getting in there, yeah?
Yeah, I basically have a skeleton. People want to start diving in and like adding markdown files. I'll add to the minutes and just, yeah, I can provide some links and stuff to instructions and so on for contributors to start going in. But yeah, it's still work in progress, but at least it's like I said, I'd rather like let people start adding stuff in than tweaking.
Yeah, no,
stuff, so.
Absolutely. That's the right thing that we want now. Aha, here we go. Okay, so I'll capture that. Sign in. All right. GitHub. Anthony and oh, hello, Justin.
Hello.
Anthony, you and your partner were doing a bunch of stuff for test related issues.
Right.
One thing I'm wondering, Nicola, is in looking at Anthony made me think of this. Like, what's the best way to have like graphical demonstrations of some of these topics? Like, you can imagine, you know, creating pipeline type stuff. Is there any or flowcharts or other types of things? Is there any particular guidance that we should be aware of, or, you know, whatever is fine?
We do have some that we've created. We haven't sent them up to
Yeah.
the site yet, but yeah, so that will be important for sure.
Yeah, so just, you know, making sure that, you know, it always use SVG or, you know, whatever the.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Nicola, any further thoughts around that as far as best practices, just content wise, if there's stuff that Doxy is better at?
I mean, I know generally for Doxy, yeah, SVG tends to be the way that we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we do that just as a sort of a starting point, and if for some reason that proves awkward, we can revisit. I know for a fact that sometimes if you don't set that up ahead of time, you end up with 15 different ways of doing image display, and it gets a little clunky. So, okay, cool. If you can include the SVG guidance in your overview, or if you send me the overview, or if it's obvious, I can add that as well, just for future reference.
Sure.
Cool. And are the permissions set up on that repo, to the best of our knowledge, to be open to anybody? Open to anybody appropriate, rather. I can double check.
I think it's set up for the SIG right now, but I haven't.
Okay. We should make sure that it's open for PRs at least, for people to fork and at least request a review. I can look at that, or get Tracy to look at that.
While we're on the subject of permissions, Tara, do you have the ability to give me write access on the HackMD document?
Let me figure that out.
Just in case you're not available.
Yes, no, thank you. I remember when Christy was opening it up, originally it was awkward. According to this, you should have it.
Okay, I'll go and check again. Yeah.
If you're signed in with your GitHub account.
Ah, right. It needs the GitHub account, was it? Okay.
Yeah, you have to be signed in with the GitHub account, because then you'll get the access from your whatever your GitHub account has.
Okay, that's fine. All right, I'll do that.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Notice that in our best practices repository, it hasn't been updated in a couple months. And that used to have or does have old meeting notes.
Yeah, that's completely my fail. And that's why I was realizing, oh crap, I need to get in there and find the HackMD link and get that updated. So I'll have updates from today, which will have all of the appropriate links.
Awesome. And then I'm guessing the thing that Nicola demoed will be on the best practices site repository. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Cool. And Terry, you showed a document, but I don't know where to find that document. But you asked for help, so
let me stick that in the chat. I think. We probably need to invite you to it, actually. Yeah, if you message me on Slack with an appropriate email address for your Google account, then I'll get you invited.
Okay.
And I'm not sure exactly where this fits in, but one of the things that I'm interested in doing for my work, and also in the context of this, is developing a leveling guide with regards to where someone is in the realm of CD practices. Like, it would be very useful to me so context. I work at eBay. We're doing a big push for velocity, which involves DevOps practices and continuous delivery and all this stuff. And I embed in various teams to help them help them fix their process. And it would be very helpful to have a tool for assessing a team to figure out where they are and where they need help. And so we might have people who are their sprint situation is a disaster, but they have unit tests, or they can't deploy without 3 people signing off, but they have repeatable builds, whatever that is. It would be very helpful for me to have a tool to help evaluate them. And in talking with Tracy, she's like, yeah, that sounds like something that everyone would find really helpful.
Yeah, it definitely speaks to, oh, sorry, go ahead, Terry.
No, you can.
I was going to say, Terry talks about stuff like this all the time.
Yeah. So coming back to where that would fit in, so part of the site, there's that learn section, which is all the best practices, but near the top was a subsection about assessment. So the idea there is we would provide things like DORA, SALSA, which is the sort of in progress security framework for levels of supply chain security, and talking a little bit about value stream mapping. So I think this would also be a good fit there for talking about the levels of development maturity. If you have some kind of framework you want to put in there that makes sense. I don't know if that's where we'd want to put it, Tara, or whether we consider that a community thing and that would go in there.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Okay, so things like DORA are sort of DORA and SALSA are these sort of cross-company neutral standards we're trying to provide around how to assess your company for maturity. But I don't know if we'd consider this like an eBay specific contribution to assessment, and that would go in the community section, or whether this is something we would consider a neutral thing.
I gotcha, sorry. So I think if we can tie it to something that's sort of has broader support structure around, let's do that. And then I think if not, then we have that whole idea of case study. So maybe it starts as a case study type of deal, like, okay, eBay found itself with the following circumstances, and here's what they did to progress. And then as we can correlate that to, like, for example, DORA capabilities or other types of things, then we can cross-link. I think
that sounds good. Yeah.
Right.
And I love for this to start as an eBay thing, but I would love for this to be of general purpose.
Right. Well, and I think, this is the thing that's, I think, the most important that we've talked about and we've talked around quite a bit, which is there is no one right set of things that you'll do, right? There's the set of things that are important for your circumstances, but that there's probably higher order of, oh, it falls into certain types of patterns. So having that really good, this is why I drag Nicola and Jan Boltman, who you'll meet later, hopefully, which is to try and figure out, like, how do we, like, here are all these really cool examples, here's what they relate to, but you can see the most important thing when you get to practitioner level is, what have other people actually done, right? What problems were they solving? What lines up the most with what I'm trying to solve, right? And I think we want it, and going back to other things that Terry were saying, is I think we'll also want examples, for example, of if you had to convince a director or a VP of something, right, and getting the executive buy-in in order to implement particular types of change, so that they understand the business value, not just the technical detail. I think that's another super awesome thing that we can start capturing. Is there something I missed there, Terry? I think that's, I don't know that we have an exact format for it, but
I think it's good. I mean, this is probably going to be one of those situations like TOGAF, where you need to actually do a tailoring exercise to fit this to your particular needs. So we'll have to think about this at several levels in terms of, these steps are applicable for these types of organizations or this type of problem space. But in principle, I don't see why we can't start to collate a whole bunch of useful metrics that we can use to help people evaluate where they are. I suspect that the big divider will be between those companies that are product driven and those that are more mature enterprises with less of a product focus, because that seems to be what divides people's adoption path right now when it comes to these sorts of technologies.
You can imagine, I'm trying to think ahead here, from a kind of ecosystem perspective on the site. You come to the site and you're just kind of spelunking around, you see a thing around, that's maybe it's a capability or something analogous to that. And then we've as part of our process, we have a tagging system that could populate like a TOC or some kind of thing where it's like, oh, you're interested in this, read about what eBay or Fidelity or Google has done around that thing, right?
So we do have, I haven't implemented it everywhere because, but this is an example here where you can tag things.
Perfect.
Yeah. And put them in categories. So I haven't dug into this and I don't know if it's cross-site, but it certainly would apply within this whole section of best practices stuff. I could look into whether, I could play with it a little later and see, like, if I tagged something in the community section, would it like amalgamate all of that? But yeah, you have a tag and then it will then list everything that has that tag. So yeah.
Yeah. So if you can imagine like a widget or an element within a page where you could say, I want to see anything, I want to see the title of anything that's tagged with this particular tag, go, right? That would be super, that would, I think, be very powerful in this regard, because it would allow us to, no matter which direction you come from, the discoverability remains really good.
Yeah, I have search turned off right now because I don't want search engines to go indexing all this stuff yet, but yeah, eventually we'll turn that on too.
Okay, cool.
Cool. So Justin, I imagine that you've already had a bunch of thoughts about some of this stuff. Would you be interested in doing a bit of a brain dump into our working document to get us started? And then we can
I've not done a ton of thinking about it. I have like amorphous thoughts that I've not put down to paper yet. I just see the need for the thing. And when I joined, I had asked Tracy if this exists, and she says, I don't know if it exists. Talk to the best practices people. And if not, you can make it exist with the best practices group.
Yeah, well, I think what's interesting about what you said is the idea of a maturity model, because I think what does exist is a lot of stuff about here are some best practices around things, but then it's like, how do I get from A to B? And I think the idea of a maturity model, in Dora, it's like, well, the low performers do this and the high performers do this. And it's like, well, what about everything in between, right? And I don't think we have that. So I think capturing that, yeah, certainly is a, how do we do the crawl, walk, run kind of thing.
Yep. And I would kind of guess that we have more or less a maturity model that's broken down per area. Like we probably have one around like builds. Like, as you build reproducible, is it fast? Whatever.
So if you want to look at one example that's out of a space. So this is the salsa site for this.
I like theirs.
Yeah, and so it's this idea of, okay, here are the requirements. These are the requirements that fall into like maturity level 1, maturity level 2, maturity. So I don't know if we could do something like that with Dora capabilities, for example, like what are the table stakes, and then what would be the next thing about that? That might be a way to spin it.
Yep.
And I think the thing that we've come back to quite a lot in this group is that actually there are some key early stages of maturity that are kind of go no go for continuous delivery, and one of those is whether or not your organization is actually set up with a product commercialization strategy, because what we're really seeing is two completely different attempts to use continuous delivery in the real world. And one side of that is the Silicon Valley model of product commercialization and lean startups, and doing everything based on a series of experiments with customers to demonstrate product market fit. And really, the whole methodology grows out of that approach. But then the rest of the world doesn't really understand that, and so is trying to bolt this methodology onto existing Prince2 waterfall based approaches to doing project management, and then wondering why it all gets tied up in a nasty knot as the development team are trying to be much faster and the rest of the organization isn't structured to keep up. So I think any maturity model, yeah,
and probably others too. but yeah, those are because you also have like the straight up cloud native greenfield, startup-y. So I think there's a variety of categories.
Yeah, so I think if we sort of start at almost at the business level and say, what structure of business is this designed to work within, and then start to then subdivide that down into the various steps of activities involved, and then we can then break those down into categories that you can score against.
My guess would be that we would have, let's call it levels 1 through 5, and the product organizations that you're talking about start at like level 2 or 3, and the waterfall-y ones start at level 1 in terms of like where their business is today. Rather than saying, here's maturity model A and maturity model B, we just say like, oh, these people are really behind. They're way lower on the maturity curve in terms of continuous delivery.
Well, yeah, I think that's one. Yeah, go ahead, Nicola.
Sorry. I was just gonna say, one of the things I kind of liked in the salsa model was like, basically part of their stage 1 was you documented everything you do. and even doing that is going to be a real big eye opener into how things actually are getting delivered. And I think having something similar to that isn't just in terms of security, but in terms of product development could be that kind of first step towards understanding where you are now.
Yeah, and I think what we do need to bear in mind, though, is that rather than this being just a simple maturity model, that there is probably some level of, deciding whether your organization is one that should be attempting to do this in the first place. Because there are classes of organization where this is just a really bad fit. And it would be misleading to set people off on that path when they're never going to be able to achieve it.
And don't actually want it in their case, right? It's like it's not just the new hotness. It's solving a particular type of problem.
Yeah.
If you don't have that problem, or it's not one that is critical to you, then yeah, don't take on pain that you don't need.
Yeah, so I think we probably need to start the maturity discussion with, is this for you? And then move on into, and where are you? And then expand out into the detail. Yeah.
We have any other topics for today?
I don't think so. We've been just driving. The Nicola of we have been driving to get the site ready. So we unleash people on it.
Yeah, I think we're in a good place now. I'm very happy that we're getting close to the point where we can start hacking away on shaping this.
All right. Okay, I'm capturing all the links. Let's see. Oh, hello, Jan. Speak of the devil. She arrives. Okay. How was Germany? Oh, Jan doesn't have audio. Hello.
Sorry, can't hear. No sound.
Ah,
We can hear you.
We can hear you. Okay. We can hear you. Just wrapping up. Okay. So Nicola, I'm sorry. You're going to finalize your contributor guidance this week. Was that what you had said earlier? Or
so
soon?
what I will do is provide instructions for now on how to run it locally as Docker container. And then once I have this first iteration in the best practices repo, then I'm going to work on trying to get that in some kind of continuous deployment using Netlify. So I'll update the contributor instructions from there. But yeah, this is
okay. Yeah. Using Docker, we'll create auto publish probably via Netlify. All right. Okay. Oops. Any other questions anybody has? Oh, sorry, my dog. Quiet. Shh. Okay, cool. I will publish the notes again. Justin, thank you for the call out. I was bad. I was not paying attention and forgot for a couple of meetings. Hopefully when we meet again in a couple of weeks, we'll have our first round of contributions and feedback on the process and any other questions, and we'll actually get to just ongoing execution mode, which I'm very excited about. So thank you, everyone. All right. And thank you, Nicola, for getting us here. Really appreciate it.
happy to help. All right.
All right. Cheers. Bye, everyone.